start with our top focus this hour. India has achieved a significant victory as the death sentences of 8 Indian Navy veterans were commuted to a jail term. Now, the veterans employed by Dara Global in Qatar had faced charges of espionage and were earlier sentenced to death by a Qatari court. Now, the Ministry of External Affairs has issued a statement revealing that the Indian ambassador to Qatar and other officials, along with the veterans' family members, were present in the Court of Appeal as the death sentence was commuted. Now, the ministry has expressed ongoing support, emphasizing that they had stood by the veterans since the beginning of the matter and they will continue to provide consular and legal assistance. Furthermore, the ministry has also affirmed that they will continue to raise the matter with Qatari authorities, and as of now, as we speak right now, the death sentence of these ex-Navy men stands cancelled, and what the new sentence would be will only be clear once the detailed court order is out. Let's listen to what details my colleague Rishabh is getting at this point in time.
Since last 1 year, these 8 ex-Indian Navy personnel were in custody in Qatar. They were, charged with espionage cases for espionaging for Israel and Qatar. This is what the charges were in the espionage case. On 26 October, the first court of justice ordered death sentence, slapped these 8 ex-Indian Navy personnel with death sentence. After that, there was huge uproar. The families started reaching out to the government here as well as embassy in Doha. The External Affairs Ministry, through its embassy, applied for consular access, which was given. The first consular access was given to India on 7th of November. That's when lawyers were fixed. Indian embassy or officials, ambassador himself met these 8 ex-Indian Navy personnel in the jail, and the legal team started assisting them with a better legal advice. After that, on 21st, the Court of Appeal approved that yes, we will take up the appeal.
Right, this is now a big relief to the ex-Navy men right now, even as we speak right now, and we continue to get you all the details that are coming from on the ground. This was one case that was being watched closely, not just in India, but across the world. It was being told that this will be a test of India's diplomatic abilities, which have garnered a lot of support from across the world. And now looks like India's diplomacy has been vindicated, and this is the latest relief that has come in. A big, big relief this, given the fact that Qatar has decided to commute the death sentence of the ex-Navy men. All right, joining us on the broadcast to discuss more on this is Mr. Suresh Goel, who's a former ambassador. Mr. Goel, appreciate you joining us on the broadcast. This is a big, big victory for India. Before we talk about the technical details, what it means for Indian diplomacy, your first reaction to this good news that's come in from Qatar?
Indeed, a great news. Very delightful. Very happy to know that the death sentence has been commuted to, I believe it's now life sentence, really. I was hoping for more, right, but those are hopes. And I do hope that as time goes by, this can be condoned even further. But I'm very, very happy today that finally the lives of these Indian sailors, Indian people, has been spared.
Right, Mr. Goel, like you said, we were hoping for more, and as also Vikram Batra had said, ye dil mange more, we'll be hoping for more relief. We are still waiting for the detailed court order to be out to understand the quantum of punishment that will now be reduced to. But while that happens, let's talk about Indian diplomacy right now. Political observers from across the world were watching this very closely. This was being touted as the test of Indian diplomacy, and looks like it has now been vindicated given how Qatar has now reduced this sentence.
Absolutely. Let us look at it this way. It is, I think, it gives kudos for the Indian diplomacy, the diplomatic efforts, the way contacts have been maintained, the way it has been conveyed at various levels. But I think more than everything else, it is actually a victory for good relations between India and Qatar. It is a victory for the significance that India has in the overall scheme of Qatar's relations with the outside world. So on the whole, I think the sentence in the or or the reduction of the sentence is a victory for the Indian foreign policy overall, I would say, and the Indian importance in the region.
Right. Also, Mr. Goel, a lot is being talked about the leadership as well. While we talk about diplomacy, we've always had the best minds at our disposal. The government has always had the best minds, but we haven't really seen such results. Now, just to put in, in hindsight, the leadership, the role of the leadership, that also is very important. Prime Minister Modi met the Emir of Qatar on the sidelines of the COP28 summit. 2 days after that, Indian ambassador went ahead and met the family members and also these 8 naval men who were trapped there, who were sentenced to death. That happened. So all of these developments are something that, again, goes under the carpet. Not a lot is discussed, but at the end of the day, it's the leadership that also makes a major difference. We've always had the best minds in the foreign policy, but it's also the leadership that has made a difference now.
Absolutely. See, first of all, I think one has to go by the culture and by the antecedents of any particular country. Now, if you look at the history in Qatar, according to my understanding, there have been very, very few death sentences in Qatar on any of the issues. Now, and wherever there have been death sentences, they have been later commuted into either life sentence or completely condoned, depending upon whatever the allegations have been. And therefore, in this particular case, we would expect that if we are able to really negotiate in a particular manner, we talk to them, then we should be able to get some good results as a result of talking to them. And in that case, in that sense, it had been always speculated that if our Prime Minister were to talk to the Sultan directly, it might give us some good results. And happily, it has done so, which goes to demonstrate that the contacts at the level of leadership is always very, very useful in these matters, followed up very suitably by our ambassador in Qatar, in Doha, and finally, eventually coming to the result of conversion of the death sentence into the life sentence. On the whole, basically, effort on all the levels, at all levels, really, yes.
Right, Mr. Goel, a very interesting point that you made there. And this is, again, something a lot of skeptics will now be watching closely. How much of a difference the personal contact between the leadership of two nations also makes on the ground. And I think this is one classic example of how much of a difference it has made. We'll, of course, hope for more relief for these Navy men. Appreciate you joining us on the broadcast there for this important discussion. Let's now shift our focus to our other top story that we're tracking this hour.